What's going on, guys? Welcome back to The Shelf. Today we are talking about Smile 2, written and directed by Parker Finn. To provide a bit of context, I was not super huge on the first Smile. It felt very derivative of a lot of the types of horror films that we're getting nowadays. Obviously, the smile motif is feels very derivative of that awful Truth or Dare movie from Blumhouse. And I find it to be just a super cheesy, overused kind of trope, because it is a trope at this point, I would say. I watched it, it was fine. It's one of those movies where, the protagonist's trauma is the real villain, which is such an overused thing as well. So by and large, the first Smile just felt very forgettable. So 2024 rolls along, and we've been having a really great year for horror. Longlegs, Alien Romulus, In a Violent Nature, The Substance, really great horror films. And then we have Smile 2. Look, this movie's fine. I didn't love it. I didn't really hate it. I almost hated it, but then it kind of redeems itself in the last 15 minutes. But for the most part, similar to the first movie, it's just fine. So let's get into it. The movie starts out pretty much right after the first one left off, where Kyle Gallner is now the infected of the Smile virus, or whatever you want to call it. Spoilers, by the way. Forgot to mention that. There will be spoilers for this movie. Mild ones. I'm not going to walk you through the plot of the movie or anything, but I will be discussing things, particularly the ending, which is the best part of the movie in my opinion. So if you haven't seen Smile 2 yet, don't watch this video. But yeah, Kyle Gallner starts the movie off, and it's this one take, really kind of kinetic shot where he's going into this, I guess it's a trap house or something in Newark. I'm from Jersey, so this whole sequence feels very much Jersey, especially in the wintertime. Jersey in the winter has a very distinct feel, so as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh. And then I think I remember seeing that Parker Finn himself is from New Jersey, so that started to make sense. But yeah, Kyle Gallner is trying to lose the Smile virus, or whatever you want to call it. And, his plan pretty much gets botched right away. And he's able to successfully transfer it, but he also dies in the process. And then, his body gets smeared across the pavement in a smile shape. And, that's about as artistic as this movie gets, I would say. And then so the person that Kyle Gallner's character is able to give the disease to eventually crosses paths with our protagonist, Naomi Scott, who plays the character of Sky Riley, who is this pop star sensation. So as far as positives, Naomi Scott's performance as Sky Riley is pretty good. She's very manic. She's coming across very distressed and, unstable, and she really sells the fact that she's being tormented. So, she's great. On a technical level, this movie has a lot of really good shots. It's very stylistically shot. There's a lot of really cool transitions. There's one particular transition from, an elevator out into, a street, which was really cool that I really liked. And so just on a technical level, this movie's pretty solid. The sound design is really cool. It's really eerie. It's doing something that I haven't quite heard before. So on that front, it works pretty well. The biggest problem with this movie is that everything that happens is a hallucination. All of the scares are, first of all the scares are jump scares. There's not a single scare in this movie that is not a jump scare. And jump scares can be done well. The jump scares in this movie, some of them are pretty effective. They're pretty eerie. Not all of them feel super earned. And when all you do is jump scares, and there isn't really a lot of time spent trying to craft genuine tension, mostly because this movie can't craft genuine tension just based on the actual structure of what's going on. But when you're not able to do that, it causes me to not really be all that invested. You sort of fall into this rinse and repeat sort of cycle where a jump scare is coming, it's probably going to be something shocking, it's going to be accompanied by a loud musical sting, it's going to make you unsettled, it's going to make you feel uncomfortable, and after the fifth time that happens, I'm like, I'm checked out. I don't care anymore. But yeah, on top of that, everything is like not real. Nothing that's happening is real. Spoiler alerts, you already got that, but like everything is, there's no reliable narrator because everything that's happening to her is in her head. She's literally like waking up and hours have gone by and like she's losing time and, you know, nothing is real. So when that happens, anytime you're seeing any given scene and things start to get weird, you can kind of just rest assured knowing that nothing you're about to see will be of any consequence, because eventually after the scary shit happens, she's going to realize what's been going on the whole time and she's going to be like, whoa, like what's been going on? Nothing was going on because she's just being harassed by this like unseen force that lives only in her mind. Nothing like in the real world is being affected. And maybe that works for you. It didn't work for me. And the nature of it is so repetitive. That's what really wears me down, is the fact that there are no stakes really, and the scares themselves are so generic. I watched an interview with Parker Finn, and he seems like a really cool dude, but he talks about all the jump scares, and he talks about how people will criticize horror films for being nothing but jump scares or for containing jump scares. And he said something to the effect of, basically he said like, you can't make cake without sugar or something like that. And he compared it to filmmaking or horror filmmaking. He's like, you can't make horror films without jump scares. And I'm here to tell you, Parker Finn, you most certainly can. Like they're not synonymous with each other. Like you can make a horror film that crafts purely, you know, existential dread and, you know, draws things from disturbing imagery and not sequences where, you know, you're getting a really uncomfortable image blasted in your face and then you're getting uncomfortable sounds blasted in your ears. You can make horror films without these things. And I'm sure Parker Finn is just kind of like using hyperbole to make a point. I can respect that, but it kind of makes it feel like he's using the jump scares like as a crutch. And he definitely, in my opinion, leans on them a little too heavily in this movie. So your mileage is going to vary as far as that's concerned. I did not find that the nature of the scares in this movie worked for me. Yeah, it's just nothing about this movie is surprising or shocking. You know, at one point, you know, after Naomi Scott's character is starting to be tormented a little bit, she's trying to repair her image as a pop star, right? That's like what's going on in this movie. And so someone asks her if she can speak at this event, which is supposed to benefit like poor children or something. And, you know, as soon as that happens, as the audience, we know right away that she's going to go to this event. She's going to get fucking taunted or tormented by this ghost. It's going to make her see some weird shit. And then she's going to do some weird shit. And it's going to go horribly, horribly wrong. And that's exactly what happens. And so in a situation like that, you know exactly what's going to happen. You know how it's going to happen. And there's just nothing surprising or interesting about that to me. It's like watching a train wreck. Like, this is bad, but I can't stop watching because what else can I do? So like all that stuff is really, really tiresome. You get a couple sequences like that where it's just like, there's just not much in the way of like spicing things up. You know exactly how most scenes are going to play out in this movie. Then you get the classic exposition dump scene where our protagonist is joined by someone unrelated to this point in the movie who shows up and explains exactly what's happening and what we need to do to fix it.
I've traced the string of deaths to you. Nobody has survived longer than a week.
The thing that's really annoying, particularly here, is that Naomi Scott's character is like on the verge of being insane, like losing her fucking mind. And this guy comes along and he explains what's happening and he's like, yeah, like this is what we need to do to fix this. And despite being driven to nearly the edge of insanity, she's like, nah, that sounds fucking crazy. I'm not gonna do that. And I'm like, whoa, like what's going on with you is crazy. Why would you not just take this guy up on it like right away? And then of course she does later on in the film, but only after things have gotten to the point where they're unsalvageable. Like her life is in shambles. But she decides to go through with this plan anyway, despite there not really being much of a life for her to live at this point. Spoiler alert, at this point in the movie, she's like killed her mom. Except she hasn't, because we find out that like 50% of the movie was all in her head. None of it actually happened. So that's where I give this movie a little bit of credit, because I actually didn't see that coming. All through the movie, up until the last 15 minutes or so, they play with what's really going on, playing with reality. You know, the whole time she thinks she's doing this. Meanwhile, she was actually doing this. So it's set up, and it's not too surprising. I'm sure there were people who were able to predict this, but basically she winds up going through with this thing that this guy wants to do, which is where they have to stop her heart, and then they bring her back, and then when she's dead, the thing that's latched onto her will have nowhere else to go. It's a pretty stupid plan, I think, and then it makes sense that that's not actually what's happening, because I think that in a lesser movie, that would be what would actually have to happen in the third act. But they don't do that here. They actually go for a twist, which I didn't see coming, and it actually saved the movie a little bit for me. And so it's revealed that none of this has been happening, and she's actually about to open on her tour, and it's the first show, and it's a packed auditorium arena type situation, and she's like freaking out. And yeah, it was a cool little moment. It was a cool twist. I thought it was I thought it was all right. And then in like handily the best sequence of the movie, this smile demon emerges, and we finally see it, and it's fucking gruesome, and it like sprouts out of her body that she's watching. It's really fucked up. And then she winds up fucking killing herself in front of like hundreds of thousands of fans. And it was a really cool moment. And the reason that it was so cool is because it was the only time in the movie that things were like actually happening. Because everything up to this point, almost without exception, is inconsequential and only serves to drive home the fact that Naomi Scott's character is going insane. And that just gets grating after a while. And the stakes are so low because you already know exactly what's going to happen for the most part. You know she's going to lose her mind, and you know she's most likely not going to triumph, and it's a bleak horror film, but you know. And not to mention, this movie is just way too fucking long. This thing is like 2 hours and 7 minutes, and there's no reason for it to be. Some of these sequences go on for so fucking long, and honestly, there's no reason this movie needed to be longer than like an hour 45 max. Maybe 90 minutes. This movie just, it overstays its welcome a lot. But, so, you know, that's Smile 2. It's fine. I didn't really love it. I found it to be pretty tiresome. These movies make a lot of money. I think the first one did really well. I'm not sure how this one's doing, but, you know, it's okay. In my opinion, this is like a step above like your standard Conjuring or, you know, Blumhouse piece of shit. Alright guys, so that's my review for Smile 2. What did you think of it? I'm curious to know. Did you agree with me? Do you find this thing to be kind of tiresome and kind of derivative? Let me know down in the comments. Curious to hear everyone's thoughts. Consider liking the video if you're into that sort of thing. Subscribe. We talk about physical media, horror, new movies, old movies, all that fun stuff. So with all that in mind, please take care and watch more movies.